You know what, guys? If there was one thing that I would say that we all need to work on as people, it's to stop finger pointing and blaming. I feel like in the modern day society, in the generation that we're a part of, it is so easy and acceptable to be a victim. It's so easy to take the situation that you're in and blame it on something or someone else. In this case, it could be a situation like hair loss. And look, the fact is, yes, hair loss is going to have an impact on your life to a certain extent. In some ways positive, in some ways potentially negative. But to actually sit there and to blame everything that's going wrong in your life on the fact that you've lost your hair, I'm sorry, but that's the mindset of a coward and a victim. And the truth of the matter is, it reflects the fact that your hair loss isn't the issue here. It's the way that you view yourself generally as a person. And trust me, beyond what other people think of you, the way that you view yourself matters so damn much. I've also been in the position where, quite frankly, I lacked any self-belief in who I am as a person until one day I realized how pathetic I was being. There are literally people in this world who come from nothing, have nothing. They work the worst jobs, they have the worst kind of life from an outside perspective, and yet whenever you see them, they're smiling, they're energetic, they're optimistic, and lo and behold, they pull themselves out of that negative situation. Now what I want to ask you is, do you honestly think they would have been able to pull themselves out of that situation if they carried themselves with the same mindset that a lot of guys carry when it comes to hair loss? Hell no. Because the second you find something in life to put the blame on, where the world is the problem, your hair is the problem, the economy or who got elected is the problem, that is where you end up on a high horse and you never stop to consider the fact that maybe the problem is you. Not you as a person, but the way that you victimized yourself because of your situation. Today I want to highlight some incredible people who, despite every odd being against them in life, were still able to prevail. At the end of the day, we're only human, so it's completely natural sometimes for us to lose sight of the bigger picture, to lose sight of who we are and what we have to offer, and today I just want to remind you how freaking blessed you are to be you. And hopefully, the people that I bring up today are able to inspire you to get out of that negative mindset and get back on track to conquering your insecurities. So let's get into the video, and if you do enjoy it, be sure to consider subscribing. That will really help out the channel. Let's begin. So I want to start with a man by the name of Nick Santon. I hope I didn't butcher that last name. And what an amazing individual to start with. So due to a genetic condition known as Hanhart syndrome, Nick was actually born without any legs and born with only one arm. Now sitting here and having the blessing of 2 arms and 2 legs, I cannot even begin to imagine if one day I woke up to that situation. With the situation that Nick was in, the victim mindset could have easily been applied to his situation, and who could blame him if he did? But this man is just incredible. He never used the situation that he was born to be in as the reason as to why he cannot get ahead. He still prevailed. Guys, he went on to become a freaking bodybuilder of all things. He went on to become a model, an entrepreneur, an internet sensation who even had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson so inspired that he requested to meet him.
This is an outrage. What do you mean I can't ride the roller coaster because I'm 3'5"? Who made these rules?
You know, whenever I'm having a bad day when it comes to working out, or I'm in a bit of a rut when it comes to taking care of myself, it's seeing an example like this that really does put everything into perspective. The simple fact that Nick was able to become a bodybuilder despite the hand he was dealt is just amazing. And it really does put any excuse that I have in regards to my own goals in life to complete shame. And it should for you as well. Not just in regards to appreciating the fact that you've most likely got a fully functioning human body, but also in regards to the fact that there really is no excuse in life. There is no reason that we can't get to where we want to get to and conquer the things that we're afraid of conquering.
Today, this is how I drive. Let's do it. I usually push forward for acceleration and I pull back on brake. And then there's a safety feature. If I pull it back all the way, it does the emergency brake. But other than that, regular steering wheel, they put this loop on, but I don't really need it. I don't use it. And then my screen here has the horn, it's got the windshield wipers, it's got the blinkers if I wanted to use them, the lights. As you can see, I'm just pushing for acceleration, steering, pull back for brake and all that good stuff.
From the sounds of it as well, Nick grew up with some really nice parents. It is quoted that when he was growing up, his parents wanted him to be as independent as possible, so they never sympathized with him or let him off easy because of how he was born. It says here they would set clothes or food in front of him and tell him to figure it out. A quote from Nick himself here, he states that, "My parents sat me down and said, Nick, the world's not going to stop for you because you're born like this. Mom and dad are not going to be here forever. You're going to have to figure out how to do each and everything your way," he recalls. He also mentions that naturally he did have a share of low points in life, including one between middle school and high school. "I was so depressed and I was so uncomfortable in my skin," he says. "I didn't want to live in this body anymore." It was then that Nick realized, I need to do something. I need to be part of a team or an activity. I need to be part of something that is going to elevate me. So he pushed himself to do more things. He joined his brother and his friends in a wrestling tournament, and it says here that playing safely meant he had to make the difficult decision to have several inches taken off one partially developed arm. And he actually ended up playing in one of the high school wrestling teams. Amazing. Now what I want you to do with this example, take a moment. Look down at yourself, look in that mirror, and take a moment to realize how fucking blessed you are. If you're able to think for yourself, if you can breathe, if you can walk, run and jump, then there is no reason for you to be pinning the blame on where you are in life on something like hair loss. And take a moment to realize how truly insignificant hair loss is when you view things from the bigger perspective. It's also worth mentioning that Nick, he had no issues in regards to dating either. He's in a happy relationship and it seems that his partner made no issue of his condition whatsoever. So take the time to remember this example when you find yourself in a place of doubt. The loss of your hair does not have to mean the loss of your life. Keep living. The next example I want to highlight is a man by the name of Nick Santon.
I have no arms and no legs, but I'm very thankful that I have my little chicken drumstick here. People freak out when they see me for the first time. It's so cool. I was at a water slide all by myself. Everyone obviously at the bottom of the slide is looking up and waiting for other people to come down, and here I come and they're freaking out. They're like, you know, like...
Nick is a public speaker who was born with a condition known as tetra amelia syndrome. This is a condition which causes the absence of all 4 of our limbs, and it can also lead to issues such as underdeveloped lungs, which of course are going to lead to severe breathing issues. According to his biography, he was pretty much rejected at birth by his own mother, who refused to even see him or hold him after discovering how he was born. It's actually stated that she and her husband left the hospital, supposedly vomiting at the fact that her son was born this way. And of course, a terrible situation. You'd never want to have your own parents approach a situation in that kind of way. But eventually they did accept it. Under his parents, Nick grew up as a practicing Christian. He actually started giving talks at his local prayer group at the age of 17, and he even went on to become a university graduate by the time he was 21. In 2005, he started a non-profit organization called Life Without Limbs, and this was followed by a motivational speaking company which he titled Attitude is Altitude. Now, what can I say about this man that is not amazing? Despite the fact that he was initially rejected by his own parents at birth, and despite the fact that he went through all these physical disadvantages, he used it. He turned what looked like on the surface a disadvantage, and he used it as a strength to become a motivational speaker. By starting his Life Without Limbs organization, he took the pain that he knew and he used it to help other people who were in the same situation. And I think the name of his company, Attitude is Altitude, speaks for itself. He really showed the world just how important your attitude towards life is, and also the way that you react to the hand that you've been dealt. And whether you're dealing with a life without limbs or whether you're dealing with a smaller situation like hair loss, the way that you react to these situations is everything. Next up, we have a former member of the NBA and a basketball player, Charlie Villanueva. Now, Charlie was born with a skin disease known as alopecia universalis. And this condition essentially means that you cannot grow any hair on any part of your body.
His hair fell out in pieces, and by 12, he was bald. A difficult challenge for any child to face.
Oh, it was tough. It was definitely a tough process for me. It's definitely tough for me to cope with it, especially in school, because a lot of people in school, you know, kids 10, 11 years old, not going to understand what you're going through.
Now, of course, some of you will be familiar with alopecia because it's so closely tied in with hair loss, and this version of alopecia is basically the most severe one you can get. Now, the reason I wanted to highlight Charlie is because he is a good example that's a bit closer to home for us guys, for the guys who have gone through hair loss. And what I want you to do once again is take comfort in the fact that there are people out there who have defied the things that we have gone through, and that we can also do the same thing. Not only did Charlie go on to have a successful NBA career that lasted over a decade, he once again took the dilemma that he was facing and used it to better others. He did this by becoming a spokesperson for the NAAF, which stands for the National Alopecia Areata Foundation. He went on to receive a Community Assist Award from the NBA as well, who recognized the incredible work that he did for the organization. He's also in the process of making a documentary called What is Alopecia? And he actually wants to use this documentary to help educate people, to create awareness, and also build support for the alopecia community. And if that is not an incredible example of how we can take the burden we're facing in life and use it to help others, then I don't know what is. You know what? I think when you take the time to actually step out of your own body and realize that you're probably not the only one going through this situation, you start to appreciate life a little bit more. And you also gain that sense of self-assurance and comfort because you know you're not dealing with it alone. So to you guys watching today, I'm no counselor by any means and I'm no motivational speaker, but if you need to reach out, reach out. Don't suffer in silence. I can't guarantee that I'm going to have the right response for you. I can't guarantee that I'll have the answer for your questions, but vent. I would much rather that you message me and scream it out, let it out, rather than keeping it bottled up and have it eaten away at your well-being. Just know that this doesn't have to be your endpoint. Finally, we're closing off with Matt Lucas. What a guy. So Matt is a TV personality, a comedian, and an actor over here in the UK. Very funny guy. And again, another gentleman who faced the dilemma of alopecia. Matt's alopecia was so severe that he actually lost all of his hair by the time he was 6 years old.
So growing up, it was tough because not only did I not fully understand what was happening to me, but the people around me didn't either.
So what I want to do now, I want to read out some quotes that I found here from Matt, where he describes how it was to face this at such a young age. Suddenly everything and anything else that I was at that age was eclipsed by the fact that I was a little boy in town with absolutely no hair, and that's how it was from the age of 6 for the remainder of my youth. Right up until I became famous, my lack of hair was considered the most, perhaps even the only, notable thing about me. I was never allowed to forget for one moment that I was bald. If I went swimming or to a cinema or got the bus or went to a shop or simply walked down the street, adults and children stared at me. "You got no hair," said the young kids, pointing. Other people who previously called me Matthew now yelled Baldy as I passed by, or skinhead, slaphead, but mainly Baldy. My childhood was tough, yes. No one wants to feel eternally self-conscious, constantly stared at, teased, mocked and bullied, but also it's important to get things into perspective. Would I have had my big break as a baby in shooting stars if I had a head full of hair? My baldness has made me distinctive, yet also allowed me to transform myself. Stick a wig on me and now I'm someone else. Swap the wig, I'm another person. Perfect. It was 1985, a full 5 years after my head had fallen out. I had already done my best to somehow assimilate my baldness into my personality. I'd figured out jokey responses to the same old questions if I was in a good mood, and withering retorts if I wasn't. I'd mastered the art of staring back fearlessly at people when I caught them sneaking a look at me. I'd figured out in my own way how to live with being bald. You know what? It's crazy how relatable some of that is. I never went through severe alopecia, and I never had to face hair loss in my school years, which I'm sure would have been difficult. But the way Matt describes fearlessness, just being able to look at who you catch staring, being able to stand with your head held high when you walk down the street, that is something that I can truly relate to. I remember that feeling well, and it makes you feel so powerful. When you eventually get to that point of no return and you realise, man, this hair loss issue ain't gonna go away, so I may as well do myself a favour and at least try and deal with it with a sense of assurance. I mean, who wants to live their entire life constantly concerned about what other people are thinking? And what is there to gain from comparing yourself to other people who have the traits that you don't have? Personally, I think that's a waste of time and energy, and you are way better off just accepting your situation, the hand that you've been dealt, and making the most of it. What I want you to take away from Matt's example is that, just like he said, perhaps if it wasn't for his distinct appearance, the things that made him unique and different to everyone else, he wouldn't have seen success, and I want you to resonate with that energy. He owned the situation, he accepted the traits that he was working with, and he made it work for him, and you can absolutely do the same. Anyway guys, that does conclude the examples that I wanted to highlight today. I really hope the examples I brought up today are able to inspire you and give you a bit of hope in your situation, whether you're dealing with hair loss or anything else. With that said, I wish you well. Once again guys, my name is Ricky Benang of Bolden. If you like the video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, that will really help out the channel. And do consider subscribing if you enjoy the content.